Last class we discussed about the elements of the gating system, which is used for making of the casting. I told you to write the question. If you are not taken the question, please write down the question. This is very important for the examination. 100% guarantee to have this question in the second portion of the first module. So in the first module, you have two questions. In the second question, you have this question in the examination. Please, all of you write down the question. Explain with neat sketch. Explain with neat sketch the elements of a gating system. The elements of a gating system. Say starting from pouring cup or pouring basin. Next, which is connected by the pipe, tapered pipe, which is called screw, tapered tube or down screw. And next, here you have the well. It is called screw well or basin well. Usually it is called screw well, and it is connected to the rectangular channel that is called runner, and the runner is connected by many channels that is called gate. The name itself indicates the number of gates connected to the runner, and these gates are connected to the cavity, that is the mold cavity. From the bottom of the mold cavity, it is connected to the riser. Then once if you pour the molten metal into the pouring cup, which flows through the screw, fills the basin and flows into the runner, and in the runner you have many gates. From that, the cavity is filled at many places inside the mold box. As soon as cavity filled, the bottom there will be a gate which is connected to the riser. As soon as cavity completes its filling, and the metal rises in the riser. One more thing, very important. The riser works as the governor. Riser works as a governor. Whenever a mold cavity requires a liquid metal that is supplied by riser. Say, all of you remember, this is very important for mechanical engineers. Volume contraction. Remember, volume contraction. The volume of the metal in liquid condition is more. Remember, the volume of the metal in liquid condition is more. In order to compensate the volume contraction, the riser supplies the liquid metal into the mold cavity and makes the complete casting. There is no insufficient of liquid metal. The liquid metal required by the mold cavity supplied by the riser in order to compensate the volume contraction. This is the elements of a gating system. This is very important. You can expect this question in the examination and also in the test. All of you mark it. You have this question in the test. Write down the question. Explain briefly with neat sketch.
ಹಲೋ
Okay. ಹೇಳಮ್ಮ.
ಸರ್, ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ವೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ನಾನು ಕೊಟ್ಟೇ ಇಲ್ವಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ. ನೋಡಿ, ಯಾರದ್ದು ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನೋಡಿ, ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೇಳು ಬೇಗ.
ಸರ್ ಆದ್ರು ಸರ್.
Adra? Okay. Pratik, can you listen? Pratik. Pratik,
ಎಸ್ ಸರ್.
I will make you as a representative of this subject, MCW. Okay.
ಓಕೆ
Anything I want to inform all the students, I will inform you. In turn, you can inform all of you. Please. Okay.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
I will make you Pratik. And you do one thing. After the class, you just send the message hi like that to the WhatsApp number. You know that you know my number, no?
ಎಸ್ ಸರ್.
You send just WhatsApp number to hi like that. I will make you as the representative of this MCW subject. So I wanted to inform anything to you to the class that I will inform you, and in turn you can inform all of them. Okay, Pratik.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
Okay, okay. You are the team leader. Okay.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್.
Welcome. And all of you expect this question in the test as well as in the examination. Please write down the question. Explain briefly with neat sketch the elements of the gating system. So this is the explanation for gate. See one by one. Pouring cup, screw, runner extension, in gates, risering, requirement of the riser, and principle of gating system, and types of gate. Types of gate. All of you, please write down the types of gate. Underline that. Write down the common types of gates are. Write down one by one. Top gate, bottom gate. Number 3, potting line gate. Number 4, step gate. Once again, all of you, please write down the title. Types of gates. The common types of gates are top gate, number 1. Number 2, bottom gate. Number 3, potting line gate. Number 4, step gate. First, you write down the top gate. The name itself indicates top. Top means the gates are present only on the top of the mold cavity. As you can observe here, this is the pouring cup. This is the ladle. From that, they fill the mold cavity from the ladle. So this is scope, and this is drag, and this is the potting line. So the gate present on the top of the mold cavity, that is called top gate. Next, come to the point, bottom gate. The name itself indicates the mold cavity filled from the bottom of the mold cavity. So all of you observe here, this is scope and this is the drag. The gating system connected to the mold cavity from the bottom. Remember, the name itself indicates the bottom of the mold cavity is connected to the gating system. When you pour the molten metal from the screw, which fills the elements of the gating system and fills the mold cavity from the bottom, that is called bottom gate. Next, you come to the point, potting line gate. As we know that 2-box molding process, upper portion is scope and the bottom portion is drag, and the potting line, the gate present on the potting line of the drag, that's the top of the drag and the bottom of the scope, which makes the potting line. The gate present on the potting line, that is called potting line gate. That name indicates potting line gate. The gate present on the potting line, it is called potting gate or potting line gate. Next, come to the point. All of you see the horn of a cow, horn of the bullock, horn, the same shape of the Gate used for filling of the mold cavity. All of you observe here, which looks like a horn of the cow. Horn of the cow. For that reason, the gate is called horn gate, which looks like a horn of the cow or buffalo. That is called horn gate. Next, come to the point. Before that, all of you, please write down a rough sketch of top gate, rough sketch of top gate. Otherwise, all of you take the screenshot. Next, number 2, bottom gate. Bottom gate. Next, number 3, parting line gate. Number 4, horn gate. Simple. The horn gate. All of you see the horn of the cow or buffalo or bullock. The same shape of the gate is used for filling of the mold cavity. That's called horn gate. You have 2 types of gates here. Looks like same, but it is a different one. And you can use this gate for filling of the mold cavity. Next, come to the point. Types of risers. Before that, all of you write down. Explain briefly with neat sketch. Explain briefly with neat sketch the types of gates. For this question, write down the types of gates. That's top gate, bottom gate, bottom line gate, step gate. So horn gate you have seen. That's the good example for step gate. See, look like a step. Next, come to the point. All of you write down types of risers. Types of risers. Riser. What is the meaning of riser? Say, all of you observe here. This is the mold cavity. This is the pouring basin, sprue, and fills the mold cavity from the side. On the top, you have the riser. What is the function of riser? So when you pour the liquid metal into the mold cavity through the gating system, which fills the mold cavity, and as soon as after filling the mold cavity, the metal rises in the riser. And all of you see in the overhead tank, side of the overhead tank, there will be a pipe, air pipe or air vent. So what is the function of that air vent? So whichever the water filled in the overhead tank, simultaneously water is also filled in the air vent, air pipe. In the same way, in the mold cavity, if you pour the molten metal into the mold cavity, after completion of filling the mold cavity, metal rises in the riser. One thing, all of you remember, this is very, very important. That is the volume of the metal, whether it is non-ferrous or ferrous, the volume of the metal is more in liquid condition. More in liquid condition. As soon as the phase changes from liquid phase to solid phase, there will be a volume contraction. Volume contraction. Usually, the volume contraction will be present in all the liquid metal, which ranges from 2 to 7% of the volume. Remember, 2 to 7% of its volume. So in order to compensate the volume contraction, the riser is present on the mold cavity. As the solidification completes, the mold cavity requires little amount of liquid metal that is supplied by the riser to the mold cavity in order to complete the solidification process. Otherwise, there will be a lack of filling of the mold cavity. There will be a problem with the insufficient liquid metal due to non-filling of the mold cavity. Usually 2 to 7% of liquid metal required for the mold cavity in order to compensate the volume contraction. This is the function and explanation of the riser. Explanation of the riser. Then all of you remember the riser works as a governor whenever the mold cavity requires the liquid metal in order to compensate volume contraction that is supplied by the riser to the mold cavity in order to complete the solidification process. Now write down types of riser. Number one, open riser. Number one, open riser. The name itself indicates open to the atmosphere. Open to the atmosphere. All of you observe here. This is the open riser placed on the top of the mold cavity. Open to the air. Open to the atmosphere. So for that reason, it is called open riser. Write down number one, open riser. Next, come to the point, very, very important. All of you mark it. Blind riser. Blind riser. That is nothing but, say, the casting has whole intricate shape and many intricate small thin sections in the mold cavity. The riser is provided inside the mold cavity. Remember, all the risers are provided in the other side of the mold cavity, but blind riser is an integral part of the mold cavity. All of you observe here, the blind riser. All of you observe here, this is the blind riser and this is the sand core. From this sand core, which is placed on the potting line, the metal covers the sand core. Around the sand core leaves the hole in the casting. This is the mold cavity and this is the core present in the riser, and also the screw, pouring basin, and the potting line. So this is the cope and track. The blind riser is placed inside the mold cavity, but in all the risers are open to the air. But this is the blind riser placed inside the mold cavity. All of you observe here, this riser not export to the atmosphere, which is placed inside the cope and drag, inside the cope and drag. So this is very, very important. All of you please write down open riser. Next, blind riser. All of you write down a question. Explain briefly with the neat sketch. With neat sketch, different types of risers. So for this question, write down, starting of this question, what is a riser? Please all of you write down, what is riser? Put a question mark. Explain briefly with neat sketch. Explain briefly with neat sketch types of risers. For this question, the riser, function of the riser, The riser works as the governor whenever the mold cavity requires the small amount of liquid metal in order to compensate the volume contraction that is supplied by the riser. That is the explanation for what is the riser. And different types of risers. First one, number one, open riser. Number two, blind riser. Both.
ಹಲೋ
Hello.
ಹಲೋ ಸರ್.
ಹೇಳಮ್ಮ.
ಸರ್, ಇದು ಬ್ಲೈಂಡ್ ರೈಸರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಮೋಲ್ಟನ್ ಮೆಟಲ್ ಪೌರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅದು ತುಂಬಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಮಗೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಬೇಕು ಸರ್?
One second. I will show you. See here. You can observe in the sprue only, pouring basin and the sprue. And you know that the volume of the mold cavity. Say, volume of the mold cavity, capacity of the mold cavity, say for example, 25 kg. Okay. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
The volume of the mold cavity, that's the weight of the casting, is 25 kgs. Usually, they bring 26 or 27 kgs of liquid metal in the ladle. When they empty the ladle, they understand that the mold cavity is completely filled with the liquid metal, only leaving 1 or half kgs of liquid metal in the ladle or in the sprue or in the pouring basin. So from that only they understand the liquid is filled in the mold cavity. Otherwise, nowadays what they do, they place some choplets. Choplets means wooden pieces. They place the choplets in the different places of mold cavity. When the liquid metal makes that contact with the choplets, the gas is coming from that hole. Gas is coming from that hole. So from that also they understand the mold cavity is filled. Mold cavity is filled. So like that they understand the blind riser is used to fill the mold cavity. Whenever the one more thing, the volume of the blind riser is also added to the volume of the mold cavity. If it is the volume of the mold cavity is 20 kgs and 5 kgs of blind riser. So that's very, very important. So the 5 kgs of metal is present in the riser, that is supplied to the blind riser. Only 2 to 7% of liquid metal is supplied to the mold cavity in order to complete the solidification process. Next, all of you write down fettling and cleaning of castings. Fettling and cleaning of castings. Underline that. Castings are to be separated. Castings are to be separated from sand mold box. Castings are to be separated from sand mold box before gates and risers are removed. Risers are removed. Gates and risers are removed. This is referred to as fettling and cleaning of casting. Cleaning of casting. I repeat, casting are to be separated from sand mold box before the gates and risers are to be removed. This is referred to as fettling and cleaning of casting. Next line write down. The steps involved are the steps involved are: first, write down fettling. First fettling, say in the fettling operation, first operation is shake out. Say by using cam and motor, there will be a shake out machine. They keep the castings on the shake out so that the vibrating base of the shake out machine, which vibrates the casting, so that whichever the sand particles stick to the castings are coming out of the casting. That is called shake out process. That is, which looks like a platform of the weighing scale. The same type of platform used for shakeout operation. When you switch on the machine, due to the camshaft, there will be a vibration in the shakeout platform. Due to that, whichever the sand particles stick to the casting are automatically coming out of the casting. That is called shakeout process. Next, come to the point. The removing of sand lumps are broken, cleared of nails, wires, etc. Say, for example, if you want to place cores in the mold cavity, for that they use wire or nails, and sometimes sand lumps are attached to the casting that are removed by using chiseling operation. By using small chisel and hammer, they remove the sand lumps, lines and wires. And next, the empty mold box sent to the molding section. The empty mold box sent to the sand muller. That is, again, the mold box is filled with sand. The process is repeated and the mold cavity is formed and the mold cavity is filled with liquid metal. After completion of the solidification process, castings are removed, the fettling operation is carried out, then the sand lumps, risers, runners and other nails and wires present in the casting are removed by using chiseling operation, using chisel and hammer. This is called fettling operation. This is very, very important for mechanical engineers. That is called fettling operation. Next, from this point, casting and mold boxes are separated. All of you observe here, return to the molding section to be used again. That's the mold box. And here the arrow mark indicates cleaning operation of castings. There will be a sand blasting or short blasting machine are present. What the function of the short blasting or sand blasting machine? With high jet, the sand or balls, stainless steel balls, which hit the casting, from the blasting machine, so that the surface of the casting becomes clean. The surface to be clean by blasting of sand or blasting of the small balls on the surface of the casting. From that, you can clean the surface. That is called short blasting or sand blasting. Now, all of you, please write down this flow diagram. Fettling, shake out, continue the aroma, sand, that is sand lumps are broken, cleared of nails, wires, runners, risers, projected, unwanted projections. Say after the wires, write down runners, comma, risers, comma, unwanted projections, etc. are to be removed by chiseling, chiseling, chiseling with small hammer, chiseling with a small hammer. And next, mold box, return to the sand muller. Sand muller. By the side, write down casting and mold boxes. Below the casting, draw the arrow mark like this and show the arrow marks cleaning operation by cleaning operation of castings by short blasting or sand blasting. Sand blasting. Next, here the mold boxes. Below the mold boxes, return to the molding section to be used again. So this is the explanation for fettling and cleaning of casting. This is the jolt squeezing machine. The operation carried out in the jolt squeezing machine. As I already explained the molding machines in the molding section. Once again, you have this here. Next, working operation, that is the filling of the mold cavity with the molten metal. For that, you have to prepare the mold box. And this is the explanation for jolt squeeze machine. Jolt squeeze machine. And next, come to the point. Sand slingers. All of you observe here. This is the sand basin connected to the conveyor. From the sand bin, the sand moved on the conveyor. That is nothing but the bucket present in the conveyor. The sand is filled in the bucket and fall on the belt conveyor. And the belt conveyor is connected to the small channel. From that, which is fall in the sand impeller. All of you observe here, sand impeller. And this is moved 180 degree. All of you observe here. This can be moved 180 degree. Place the mold box wherever the place available in the molding section, and you can fill the mold box with the sand by moving the swinging arm. All of you observe here. This is the swinging arm. This is the pattern, and this is the mold box. This swinging arm can be moved 180 degrees. 180 degrees. Keep the mold boxes in 180 degrees and fill the mold box one by one through the sand impeller, ramming head or sand impeller. By force, the sand filled in the mold box. This is the principle of operation of sand slinger, slant slinger. All of you please write down. Write down. Explain briefly. Explain briefly with neat sketch. Jolt squeeze molding machine. Explain briefly. Jolt squeeze molding machine. For this, write this diagram. Line diagram is available. Otherwise, you write this diagram and explain with your own sentence. That is the principle of working of jolt squeezing machine. Here you have point wise. You can write in a paragraph, or otherwise you can write by point wise. Next, you write down. This is the explanation for jolt squeeze machine. Only you can write this much. Is if time permits, you write this much, you will get full marks. If time permits, you write the line diagram of the jolt squeeze machine. This is the squeezer. You have to show this is the table and this is the bottom. Jolt squeeze machine. You have to write this diagram along with this, the function of the jolt squeezing machine in order to fill the mold cavity by using squeezer. And also, if possible, you show this diagram also. Next, come to the point. Write down the question. Explain briefly with neat sketch. Sand slinger. Sand slinger. Explain briefly with neat sketch. Sand slinger. This is the last portion in module 1. Today, all of you, unmute yourself and listen properly. Today, I will create the Google Classroom link. Google Classroom link. You have to send the scanned copy of the test answer sheet. Remember, whichever the sheets after completion of the test, you have to scan, or otherwise you can take the photograph of the answer sheet and send it to the Google Classroom link. Today, I will create the Google Classroom link. And one more thing important, whichever the portions covered till today in the module 1, the entire notes I will upload afterwards. Remember, the portions covered till today in the module 1, I will upload that in the Google Classroom. You can access the notes, or you can download the notes, or you can take the Xerox of that notes. Today, I will upload the notes afterwards. That's available in the evening. And I will send you the Google Classroom link. You have to send the scan or photograph of the answer sheet. Answer sheet of the test 1. Now, all of you unmute yourself and answer on call. Mithun.
Present, sir.
Prathamesh.
Present, sir.
Manoj. Manoj H. Pawan Hednat.
Present, sir.
Nishchit.
Present, sir.
Sushant.
Sir,
Hemant.
present, sir.
Hemant.
Present, sir.
Kritik.
Sir.
Adil.
Present, sir.
Shashank.
Yes, sir.
Shahid.
Yes, sir.
Anish. Nazma.
Yes, sir.
Dawood.
Yes, sir.
Abhilash. Abhilash.
Present, sir. Present, sir.
Pratik S. Manoj YB. Asha Emma. Ishan.
Yes, sir.
Hemant KS.
Yes, sir.
Anush. Akash.
Present, sir.
Jayant L. Mohammed Fardan. Akshay M. Patil. Abhiram H.A.
Sir.
Chandan R.C. Vivekanand.
Yes, sir.
Nutan.
Yes, sir.
Kumaraswamy. Karthikeyam.
Yes, sir.
Harshavardhan.
Yes, sir.
Venkatesh Murthy. Aditya.
Yes, sir.
Dhananjay
Yes,
V.
sir.
Mohammad Raja.
Yes, sir.
Ganesh Naik,
Present, sir.
Karthik MK,
Sir.
Chetan AB,
Sir.
Nayaz Sarif,
Yes, sir.
Bhagat HR,
Yes, sir.
Akshay M. Patil, Karthik R,
Present, sir.
Bhairappa, Rohit Kumar, Abhilash, Pawan HR,
Present,
Hemant
sir.
KS. Anybody else? Please tell me your name.
Sir, Dhanush.
Okay, Dhanush. Next.
Manoj.
Okay.
Sir.
Next.
Manoj,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, Dhanush. Manoj. Okay.
Present,
Next.
sir.
Sir, Danish.
Okay. Next.
Sharat.
Sharat. Okay. Next.
Chandanasi.
Chandan RC. Okay. Next.
Sir, Sushant.
Sir, Jayant.
Okay. Next.
Danish, sir.
Danish. Okay. Danish. But okay.
Sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Helama.
Hello.
Hello.
Sir, ನಾನು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಆಬ್ಸೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ.
No problem. ಡೇ ಟು ಟೈಮ್ ಬರ್ತಿತ್ತು. ನಾನು ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಸರಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಮ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸರಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ನೀನು ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಯಾವತ್ತಿಂದ ಆತರ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಆಬ್ಸೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಆ ಡೇ ಟು ಟೈಮ್ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಬರ್ದಿಟ್ಕೊಡಿ. ನಾನು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸರಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
ಓಕೆ. ಹೇಳಮ್ಮ ಹರ್ಷ.
ಸರ್ ಅದೇ ನನ್ನ ಅಟೆಂಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಿಸ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ಸರ್, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ.
ನಮ್ಮ ತೊಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವತ್ ಮಿಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಡೇ ಟು ಟೈಮ್ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದಮ್ಮ. ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ಸರಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
ಮೊನ್ನೆ 7ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು 8ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ನನಗೆ ಒಂಚೂರು ನೀವು ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾನು ಸರಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. Okay. Now I stop at this stage. I will continue in the next class. And this is the last portion in the module 1. And you have my test in between 29th to 31st. Whenever I will put the test in the schedule, I will conduct the test online.